A couple months ago, I put out reviews talking about two Scooby-Doo short films. Those being The Spooky Scarecrow and Haunted Holidays. Those are only 2 of 6 short films. And I say short films because they have the animation style of the movies in the 2010s, but then they're also not long enough to get a whole film, so they're just short films. Get it? Got it? Alright. So yeah, today I'll review Mecha, Menace, Besties, Ghastly Goals, and Spooky Game. So now that you know all the things we're talking about, let's get into the reviews. First up, in 2012, from the Scooby-Doo Laugh Olympics DVD, we have Spooky Games. The film starts off with an ending of a crime and Shaggy qualifying for the games. Roll the intro. At the games, we see Shaggy walking out and the gang learn about this ancient statue. After the walk, Shag eats and the others meet Steve and news anchor and record holder Jack. Statue comes to life and attacks the town.
And can you believe this? The statue trashed everything but the ice cream stand. What a lucky break. You go get him, kid.
Fred says the thing.
Well, gang, it looks like we have another mystery on our hands.
Velma finds some interesting liquid. We see the boys warming up and we meet
Igor Drostov from Russia, the #2 pole vaulter.
Velma finds him interesting, very interesting, becoming suspect number 1. Then we learn that someone sabotaged Steve's lucky pole. The statue attacks it again, but this time throwing spears. After he disappears, and later that night, the gang investigate. They find drag tracks going down into a tunnel. Lights go out and they find the actual statue, the statue that should have been there, not the monster statue, the statue that, yeah. Anyway, as they're walking backwards trying to describe what they saw, they bump into the monster statue and run off. We learn that security is tight and the finals begin. Statue attacks, but that one is Scooby. The real one shows up. Shaggy turns, knocking down some flagpoles, having the statue miss his shot. He somehow ends up in the stands. Fred goes up to deal with him, but that doesn't go well. So then the girls trip him at the top, and then he falls down the stairs, and then everyone...
Don't fire!
Daphne steps on the belts, revealing Jack Regan. The girls explain their findings.
Velma found hydraulic fluid at the scene of the first attack. The exact kind they use in robotic exoskeletons, like in the B-movie Gladiasaurus. It starred Jack Riggins in the lead role. Riggins purchased the exoskeleton as a souvenir. Riggins had the exoskeleton outfitted to match the 40th statue for the games. And he hid the real statue in the tunnels under the stadium. That's why the ice cream stand was untouched in the first 40th attack. Riggins loves ice cream.
And he gives us his reasoning.
Why? Because I didn't want my record broken, kid. When you're my age and some hotshot's about to steal your legacy, you'll understand.
Steve breaks the record, and then Scooby gives us our outro. Thoughts on this short film? It was kind of obvious that it was Jack, because first off, the ice cream stand wasn't knocked down, and he's the guy that is literally eating ice cream in 2 shots, and he's literally mentions, thank God that the frickin' ice cream stand wasn't destroyed. And his motive was told to us literally right after we met him. And then I believe, I just want to say this because it sounds cool, but I don't know if it was for sure, but the title sequence seemed to show us some snippets of what in other realities what the short film might have been. On to our next Scooby-Doo short film from the Spooky Tales Robots DVD, Mecha, Mutt, Menace. This short film begins with the title sequence and shows us that we're at a science expo. Fred's here testing
The laws of physics to trap a human being.
and then he accidentally traps the judge, Melanie, and daughter of Ned Staples. They go to Ned's presentation showing off Mecha Mutt. Mecha Mutt goes rogue and Melanie tells us the lore of the Space Spectre. We get 2 other suspects, Dr. Evan Albright and Irv, the lab assistant. With Irv, we learn he has sticky hands, and we get his motive.
Dr. Staples keeps me so busy, I don't even have time to date.
With the other people, we see another big dog named Rover 1, and the motive of Albright.
But I thought Dr. Staples invented the Canine Mars rover.
That's just what he lets people think. But it was my idea.
The boys find space food and Mecha Mutt. They run and they get trapped in an air tunnel. The doors shut and turn on. The trio find them and Velma turns off the air on some sticky controls. So they go back to Irv. He tells us he was there the whole time. So they go to Cam's while in this security room.
Mecha Mutt has blown up the entire security network.
They use Rover 1 to locate Mecha Mutt. The boys find him in an obvious place between 2 boxes and a tarp over it. Obviously, he's right there. After Robo Russell, the boys crash with Mecha Mutt. Velma reveals Mecha Mutt was controlled by Melanie and explains her findings.
It was your hairband. It looked plastic, but it was metal. See? It's packed with electronics. It's a cybernetic remote control. But what really got my mind going was the sticky substance on the controls in the testing center. It wasn't candy, but a gum resin. The same concoction Fred used to make the netting of his truck sticky. You had it on your hands when you locked Shaggy and Scooby in the wind tunnel with Mecha Mutt. You hid when you heard us coming, and pretended to be just arriving on the scene when we freed Shaggy and Scooby. That's why Mecha Mutt also knew to avoid Fred's madness.
And then Melanie gives us her motive.
It was me, Dad. Why? Because of you. All my life, your work has come first. You've ignored and neglected me, never once seen just how brilliant I am. So I decided to show him just how brilliant. And if I had to destroy his career, not to mention the entire space program to get his attention, so be it.
Fred gets a second to the electricity guy, and the boys eat some more space food on a rocket that takes off into space. Alright, my thoughts on this episode. It's good. I like that we get multiple suspects, because that's what a good episode of Scooby-Doo is. You give us multiple suspects, but it's usually never the obvious one. Because Irv, he had the sticky hands, and when Velma turned off the controls, it was sticky controls. So that's why they went back to Irv. But like I said, it's never the obvious suspect. So then you had to change it. And then since they used Dr. Albright's machine dog, then you know it couldn't be her because they're using her machine. So then it took away 2 suspects. So we had 2 suspects, but then those 2 suspects went out the door. And then a giant dog, in theory, if that was actually a big thing, if that was an actual thing, that would be scary as hell either way, especially if they made it look like Mecha Mutt. If they made it look like Rover 1, that would have been cool. And I thought it was really weird to hear the other voice actors, or the main voice actors, be background characters. Like Frank Welker being the astronomy body guy at the beginning, and then Matthew Lillard as a news reporter. Like, you can obviously tell it was one of them. And I couldn't tell if any of the girls in this episode were voiced by other girls. I don't know. But Melanie was definitely not voiced by Velma or by Greta Lyle, or not Mindy Kaling at this point, right? I don't know. Either way, it was just cool to hear the boys voice other boys. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Now on to our next short film from the Field of Screams DVD, Ghastly Goals. So this short film starts off with a soccer parade. Fred thinks there's a mystery afoot. Shaggy and Scoob go to find more food. Scooby goes to retrieve a ball and finds our monster. The monster dives at Scooby right into our intro. The parade gets crashed as Velma figures out the lore of our monster. Scooby kicks the ball and it bounces like crazy. The monster looks through the balls trying to find a specific one. He gets found behind the churro stand and then disappears. All the balls get picked up. Velma figures it out to be
Eshu. Gesundheit. No, Eshu. It's the name of a mythological creature. He's a trickster of sorts.
the gang sneak into the equipment room to find the ball. They all dive in and get to looking. Eshu is also here and chases them like dolphins. Eshu goes after the security guard and disappears once again. Fred figures out.
You know what I think? I think Eshu wants the same ball.
They go back to the alley to find a broken vial. They head to a lab and meet security guard Ronaldo, Dr. Ricardo, and Professor Paris. At the lab, we learn that the tube was stolen by Eshu, and the liquid inside the tube makes things very bouncy. Later at the game, the gang say it's possible motive.
So Eshu stole the Boundium, which was spilled on the kid's soccer ball. If the thief gets the ball back, he can extract the formula and sell it to whatever buyer he's lined up.
Back in the equipment room, the ball that they're looking for is gone. They sneak onto the field, and the ball that they're after is going to be used on the field. So they're like, what do we do? So Scooby-Doo goes undercover as one of the players to get the ball. Eshu appears after Scooby scores, and they play a little game of keep away for a bit until the ball bounces all over the place. Then it goes into Eshu, gets flown into one of the goals. Fred removes the mask to be,
Ronaldo, the guard from the research lab.
and he gives us his story.
I wanted to be a magician more than anything, but I came from a family of security guards, so that was my destiny. Even as an adult, I longed to be on stage, but a magic act is very expensive. How could I get the money? And then I learned about the professor's secret formula. It could be worth millions. By using a costume, not only would I conceal my identity, but I could become part of the parade to cover my escape. Then came the accident. The formula was now on the ball, but the dog would find it first.
He says the thing,
And I would have too, if it wasn't for you meddling kids and your soccer stinking dog.
and after some pizza on a stick, this little short film ends. My thoughts on this episode. There's only one little error I think they made, and that's when Scooby-Doo scored. I think because the ball bounces off of the Brazil goal, gets hit into Scooby, which is flying toward, bounces off the USA goal, and then gets the goal. I think that's a little error that they just didn't bother to change. So somehow Brazil won, even though he scored for the American team. Just a little confused there. And the film was good. I liked the design of the monster and just the plot in general. I think it was pretty good. So yeah, it's just a good one in general. Now hopefully, on to the next short film that came from the Surf's Up Scooby-Doo DVD, Beach Beasties. Now, I also say, hopefully Beach Beasties, because I have the DVD. I have the Surf's Up Scooby-Doo DVD thing, but I don't have the first DVD. I lost the first DVD somewhere. I don't know where the first DVD is. Sadly, I might have to buy another one.
1 week later.
So, obviously, you're here. So, let's talk about Beach Beasties. This short film starts off with a guy with a metal detector on the beach. The ocean then comes alive and attacks the man right into our title sequence. After that, we meet back up with the gang as they're trying to meet up with Fred, but they have to avoid traps on the way to his front door. As they get there, they ring the doorbell and they get trapped. Fred, obviously, as you can see, has a love for nets. So they try talking them out of it, try to get over it, so Daphne comes up with a bright idea to go to her uncle's resort. After Velma mentions
Without a single net in sight.
they are surrounded by nets. Fred has a little panic attack, and then Fred gets spooked by Uncle Sandy. Which is kind of cuckoo, because Shaggy says, "Oh, so you named the hotel after yourself?" And he's like, "Oh, because my name's Sandy. You think I named it? Wow, I never noticed that." Or after some more Fred anxiety, he runs off. The boys go off to get food, but Scooby finds a love interest. Fred runs back in. from the liquid, forming
The one thing I'm afraid of. Scary things.
Scooby saves his love. The girls notice it's coming from the doorway. Fred throws a net at the liquid and it goes right through. The liquid steals something and the girls try cutting it off, but it escapes back into the ocean. Fred has a realization about nets and has a whole thing about it. People leave on the third attack. Uncle Sandy invited them to help with the liquid monster. Shaggy tries to win his guy back, but fails. In Sandy's office, we learn of the legend of Malcolm LaRoche and our first suspects.
Or the monster's fake, and the guy who owns the resort next door is trying to drive me out of business. Or maybe I'm behind it. I could be trying to collect the insurance money. I'm kind of a shady character. I never really trusted me.
They split up. Daphne and Fred roam the beach, surrounded by, you guessed it, nets, and Fred has another panic attack. Velma visits the hotel next door and learns of Aquatica, a dancing water spectacular, and the tech that is used for it, and the repair guy is trying to fix it. Brownstone Industries. Shaggy eats alone and is visited by Kiki Brownstone and talks about their missing dog. Kiki is trying to leave, but her husband doesn't want to. She also hasn't seen him much ever since they got there. And then they cry about their loneliness. Velma finds hair gel and meets back up with the others. Velma and Shaggy talk about their brownstone interactions. They go to a party at the beach. Then a liquid octopus interrupts the limbo training. Shaggy saves Scooby's love. And then Kiki's necklace almost gets swiped thanks to the trio trying to scare off water with fire.
Wait, hold the phone. Are we using fire to fight a monster made of water?
We really should have thought that through, huh?
Shaggy takes the attention, and then Velma does. They run, then see something is in the middle of the liquid. The ladies encourage Fred to find a net. He makes one out of VHS tape film, and then Fred traps it. Velma unmasks it to be.
Is grasped in brownstone.
Velma explains everything.
The how is that his company built this suit for the water show next door. It uses a system of water jets and electromimetic gel to control water and form it into shapes. As to why Grafton did it all, well, I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that this necklace is fake.
I sold the real necklace to raise funds and my company was in trouble. I knew sooner or later you'd figure out you were wearing a fake. I had to get it before that happened.
They say their goodbye, and Gaffin almost says the thing.
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for that guy and his net.
The boys make up, and the credits roll. Thoughts on this short film? I love the liquid monster. He can basically just change whatever he wants to be, or whatever he wants to look like. I love the liquid. Just like the monster from the Haunted Holidays short film that I talked about in my Christmas video. I love that one, and I also love this one because they are so scary. Like, seeing liquid come to life, I mean, everything else is kind of scary, but liquid. And then the multiple plots to fill the time were pretty good. Like, his net love / avoidance was pretty funny. Scooby finding love, which isn't the first time that's ever happened. Shaggy being lonely is kind of a plot point, because that's when we learn about her name being Brownstone. Then Velma figuring out the whole mystery, basically, because she learns about the water suits and gets the Brownstone name. So, yeah, I love this one, so there's nothing more to talk about. On to the outro. Guess I should have finished this video before they left all their streaming services, so I didn't have to buy a 2 DVD set just to watch this one thing. I'll eventually watch all of them on the DVD. Which one was your favorite? You could clearly see that Beach Besties is my favorite. From a giant Roman guy to a giant robo dog to a Brazilian legend to liquid. Those all sound dumb, pretty dumbed down. Next month is Valentine's Day, and I love Scooby-Doo. So stick around, where I'll talk about all of my favorite episodes from each of the series. Some I'll skip over. I'll explain it more in that video. So yeah, subscribe. And here's a playlist of all of the review or recaps I've done. And then click here for my most recent video.